My name is Cesar Sordo, and for my project, I'll be discussing emergency management theory. So what is emergency management? Emergency management is a distribution and management of resources aimed to combat harmful effects that are caused by natural or man-made disasters. The emergency management cycle occurs in 4 steps: mitigation, preparedness, response, and recovery. The first step, mitigation, is any action that aims to reduce or limit the effects or possibility of disaster. This step occurs before an emergency has struck, and an example would be installing shutters on a home before a hurricane has hit. Preparedness is any planning, training, and organization aimed to create an effective response effort. An example of this would be establishing routes people can use to evacuate. This step also occurs before an emergency has hit. The third step is response. Response is any actions taken to save lives and prevent further property damage during an emergency. Response is putting preparedness plans into action. An example of this would be rescue workers working to recover missing people. The final step, recovery. Rebuilding the community back to normal and making any improvements that may mitigate the effects of future disasters. An example of this would be creating stronger buildings and updating code that requires stronger construction, able to withstand stronger forces from a possible future disaster. 3 implementation patterns for disaster relief. Implementation patterns characterize the action levels of government take on during an emergency. The first one I'll be discussing is bottom up. In this situation, local government is a driving force of the relief effort, and as state and federal government become involved, they work through the local government. This usually occurs during smaller, more manageable disasters where the local government is able to meet all of the needs of their community and slowly work with state and federal government as needed. The next implementation pattern is top down. During this situation, the federal government takes control of the response effort and rolls out responsibilities to lower levels of government if needed. This situation usually occurs during more extreme disasters where state and local government is unable to meet the needs of their communities and handle the response effort. It's simply too overwhelming for local and state government to handle. So the federal government steps in and takes control of the entire response effort and will coordinate and work with state and local government if needed. The final pattern is confusion. This pattern occurs when government is overwhelmed and unprepared to respond to an emergency. Government response is ineffective, slow, and misguided. This occurs when government does not work well with each other and there's complete confusion during the response effort. This leads to an extremely an extreme lack of confidence in government's preparedness to handle emergency situations. That is all I have for you today. Thank you for listening. This is my works cited.